Sairam everyone. Welcome to yet another session of Region 10 Inspirational Channel. This is the third quarter. We have some very exciting talks planned for the next 3 months. We will start today's program with three Oms, and then I will introduce the speakers. As you know, I'm Vijay Sri Venkatraman, the Regional Coordinator for Devotion. Sairam. Sairam Swami, please be with us and help us, guide us to be talking about your glory and the experiences that you've provided all these wonderful souls in this next hour when we talk about their experiences in the East Africa Medical Camp in the month of March and April. Sorry. Um, so, thank you, Swami. So, we have four people from our region that were part of this wonderful, wonderful opportunity. I'm going to introduce each one of them to you. The first one is Dr. Disha Saharia. She is a pediatrician by profession in the Houston area, and Swami has pulled her into his fold through his loving message of love all, serve all. Sister Disha, along with her family, her husband Ashish, son Aditya, and daughter Anika, who have been part of her Sai journey. She has been serving the South Houston Sai Center as a president, and recently she has also been serving the region as the medical director. So she is one of the physicians that were part of the international contingent that visited the three African countries in March and April. The next one I want to introduce is Sister Julie Trivedi, who is part of the Dallas Eye Center. Sister Trivedi, Julie, was born and raised in Roseland, New Jersey. When she was very young, the family home was the venue for the Sai Center in New Jersey, and they conducted Balvikas classes, study circle, bhajans, and participated in various seva projects. Julie first saw Swami at the age of 10, and then again in 1997 as part of the first World Youth Conference. She has since then completed her medical degree and works as an infectious diseases doctor. And in addition, she also is a certified life and leadership coach, helping women in medicine to find balance between work and home. Given her own experiences, she is also passionate about changing the dialogue around the mental health in South Asian and medical community. She has two daughters who are both in SSC, Saria and Milana, and they also visited Puttaparthi in 2019 and found joy in celebrating Christmas at Prashanti Nilayam. We welcome both Disha and Julie as physicians who went to the camp. When we were planning this event, Sister Disha brought up a very good point to say that when you think of a medical camp, immediately people tend to think it's for medical doctors. But some of you who have been part of our medical camps in our own cities or the regional medical camps, you know that it is more than just the doctors who are going to be sharing their skill and expertise at these camps. These camps need a many number of volunteers. So in different fields. So I want to highlight in this talk the experiences of two other volunteers who joined. One of them is a nurse practitioner, that is Brother Suresh Srinivas Balasubramanian. He was a Balvika student at the age of 9 in a small town, Shenkota, in Tamil Nadu. And since then, Swami has given him very many opportunities to volunteer in his field of expertise. He has participated in the mobile clinic, cardiac clinic, as well as he has participated in Parthi as well as in Whitefield medical camps, the Indo-USA medical camps. And recently, he was part of this East Africa medical camp as well. And he also is part of the Houston Psi Center. His wife Gomu was an SSC teacher, and his two daughters, Samhita and Saubashri, are both SSC students. He will share his experiences as a nurse at this camp. And then we have Aditya Saharia. Aditya is not new to our Inspiration channel. You may have seen him along with Lakshmi Keshavan just a few months ago, sharing his experiences as a YA. He is one of Swami's devotees growing up in Houston. From the last name, you have figured out he is Disha's son. And since his childhood, he has been blessed to be part of Balvikas, and he has grown up, had the unique honor of presenting a rose to Swami when they went as a regional trip to Puttaparthi. And then he has grown up to be a wonderful young adult spreading Swami's mission as an SSC teacher. He's a tabla teacher in his free time. He is imbibing and exuding Swami's values at work, in his life, in his teachings at the Sai Center, and in participating in Seva projects. So Aditya went as a general volunteer, and if I have to guess, he was as busy or more busy than the physicians and the nurse who were actually seeing the patients. So we can't wait to hear about his experiences. And to talk with all of these people, I felt that we could not find a more suitable Swami Sevak than Brother Manny Mistry and Sushi Mistry from Dallas Eye Center. For those of you that have seen Brother Manny, you know that he has been a long time devotee. Both Brother Manny and Sister Sushi Ben have been brought up in East Africa. So they have ties, family ties, and fond memories of that region, and then in the Sai Center there. And then also, they have been involved with at the center level, at the regional level, and even helping other regions in the national level, conducting decades long experiences in leading the medical camps here. And Brother Manny has been our center president for 2 terms. He was regional Seva coordinator for many years and has been involved in many projects. So I'm so honored that they both have agreed to be part of this session and will be in conversation with the 4 volunteers who are part of the camp. Please sit back and enjoy this very inspiring session. Sairam, everyone.
Sairam again. Sairam, Sister Vijayashri, for a lovely introduction. And I'm so happy that all of you can join us today. Shushi and I are really overwhelmed that you gave us the opportunity to actually be here and talk about the medical camps and our experiences as well in Dallas with the medical camps in the region. So, I just wanted to give you that my first darshan of Swami was in Nairobi at the airport in 1967. And I think, Julie, I think your parents have ties to East Africa as well, I believe. So those were the really special moments for us because being there to see him, even though he just waved at us from the aircraft, actually he just came out and waved at us. And in those days, what used to happen was the airlines used to come, they will land in Nairobi first, then the plane would go to Uganda, and then it will go to Tanzania, and then back wherever it's supposed to go. So it was a very small nation, small 3 nations, and actually, I really wanted to join the camp, both of us, but we could not make it. And hopefully when this happens next time around, I'm going to be the first one to sign up, Sister Disha. So you'll have to put my name down, right? So we look forward to doing it next time around. So again, we have a bunch of questions which we put together, and I want to learn a little bit more because that country is so dear to both of us, and we want to see how it happens. So I'll go ahead and pose the questions. What I want everyone to do is whoever can kind of lead the answer, and then we'll have a conversation. We want this to be a conversational because we just want to share each other's experiences and learn what happened. As because the country is so dear to us, and it's such a beautiful place to go to. I'm sure each and every one of you must vouch for that. It's such a beautiful, untempered nations over there. Really nice. No pollution. Everything is just beautiful out there. So let's just start with some questions. And we are so happy that you guys are here. And we are going to listen to the best things which we wanted to hear about that country. So let's start with the first question. Please tell us how did this camp come about and how was it basically organized and what were your roles in each camp? I'll muddle the questions up into two or three and then we can discuss it, right? So whoever wants to take the question, please go ahead. Did you understand the question? If you have any
Yes, yes,
questions,
yes,
I
yes.
will certainly repeat it.
Right. So, Sairam, my most humble pranams at the lotus feet of Baba. We are so blessed that we got this opportunity. And this camp was almost a year in planning, you know. So, because the difference between this camp and what we hold locally is that this was actually a treatment camp. So we were all supposed to go there, and we were not just supposed to, see patients and screen them. Our job was as treating physicians. And so the logistics of that does includes not just us going there, but also having our medical licenses, having so first the visas, the medical licenses, all the supporting staff, and then the medications and all the equipment that was needed. So we had the pediatrics department, we had an internal medicine department, we had an ophthalmology and optometry department, dentists, and then the nursing team, and then the registration team. So to bring everything together and to make sure that we had appropriate number of volunteers for each of these departments, it was really a massive undertaking. And some of the logistics also included making sure that we had the so the medicines for each country had to be carried separately because the medicines could not cross the border because of
Oh,
certain
okay.
regulations.
Oh, no.
So you can imagine that, as doctors, we had given our list of, oh, we need all these medicines to be carried with us. And then they had to make the arrangements for each of these places for the medicines to be able to be carried, which medicines needed to be taken to which country. So it was definitely a massive undertaking and a lot of hard work. And the request actually came from the medical director in Africa to our. So this goes through because this was an international camp. So Dr. Dinesh Lal, and then all the different regions. So that we had people from all over the world that had come together. Julie, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So I think it was one of the most amazing experiences of my life. And I think even some of the other specialties that were able to join us were the gynecology team, as well as the physical medicine and rehab and the physical therapy teams as well. And then the pharmacists, we can't forget our pharmacists who I think had the hardest job almost out of
They were
everybody.
the most amazing. I cannot. So we'll touch on that again. But yes, thank you for bringing up those three as well.
So where were the pharmacists coming from? Were they from US or UK? I understand that in these international camps, when I was talking to Dr. Prasad some time back, he goes, most of the pharmacists come from UK. So was it from UK or was it from US?
So our pharmacists actually they were from the U.S. So my sister was one of the pharmacists,
Oh,
and
really?
then we
Okay.
had someone else from New Jersey, and then one of the other pharmacy techs from one of my sister's colleagues, and
Mhm.
then there was a lot of local volunteers who also helped out, especially as they were trying to take inventory of the medications and set up some pre-packs so
Yeah.
that we were able to kind of streamline the flow of patients through the camp. Um, so yeah.
So So as far as the patients, what kind of treatments were provided? Is that, if it's not too of a personal question for us to share, would that be anything that you can share from the doctor's perspective?
Absolutely. So, I mean, I'll speak from, some of the patients that we saw. There was a lot of primary care types of
Mm-hmm.
concerns, either high blood pressure that had yet been undiagnosed, or many times it had been diagnosed, but patients were not on treatment either because they couldn't afford medication or they were intermittently taking medication whenever they were able to buy the medicines from their local pharmacy. So, a lot of primary care things. So, high blood pressure, diabetes, a lot of joint pain, back pain, shoulder pain. And then we also saw some other things like rashes, psoriasis that people had not
Mm-hmm.
yet had diagnosed, or maybe did trial and error of medications. And then even some more acute illnesses that people needed to maybe be referred to the hospital. So we also had in one of the camps that we'll talk about, which I think was probably the camp that had the most impact on all of us. It was Jinja, which was the second day
Oh, okay.
of
We've
our
done that
camp.
one. Yeah.
That is where we saw so many individuals with malaria. And they would call it the flu, and that would just be like their flu like symptoms. And you quickly learn that they weren't talking about seasonal influenza the way we talk about flu, but that was really the way they experienced symptoms of malaria. And we had rapid diagnostic testing available in our lab where they could just take a drop of blood and then basically run it through a little kit the way you can get a rapid flu test. And then
Right.
we were able
Right.
to get a diagnosis of flu. And I think we treated hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of patients for malaria from that camp specifically, which was so impressive to me to be able to do that and to offer that. We didn't really see malaria much at many of the other camps. That was the more rural camp that we
Mhm.
were at where we saw a lot of malaria.
So when we talk about the camps, which cities did you? I know you went to Nairobi, Uganda, and Tanzania,
Yeah.
but
And
which cities were you all basically? How many camps did we all do in it? How many different cities did you actually work with?
Yeah, we started in Kampala, Uganda. So on the day one of our camps, we were in the Sai Center in Kampala. Then day
Mm-hmm.
two, we had gone to Jinja. Then the next day, we had spent 2 days in the Itando Medical Mission in Kenya. We had driven across the border. Then we flew from there to Nairobi, spent 2 days in Nairobi, like 2.5 days, but two
Mm-hmm.
days at the camps. After that, we crossed the border. We went to Arusha, where we were at the Sai School in Arusha for 2 days, and then we spent one day at the camp in Moshi at this hospital that was building up. So I guess those are like 8 or 9 different days worth of camps, but maybe about 6 different locations that
That's
we
quite
were at.
extensive, really. That's quite extensive.
right, right. And some of the other conditions, like in pediatrics, we saw not just the regular colds and ear infections and things like that, but we also did a lot of deworming
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of counseling. So nutritional counseling, a lot of health care, care of self, and basically, so a lot of the basic stuff that is the same that was from here as well,
Mm-hmm.
but the difference again, lots of malaria, and
Yeah.
then a lot of the stomach infections, worms, diarrhea, things like that we
Yeah.
also did.
I think I remember Sushi, and like you can vouch for it as well, right? So when we were there, we had to get malaria shots, even though we were little. I mean, that because we were little there, we were not that old. We were very little when we were there, so they used to kind of shoot us with malaria shots all the time. So we remember that, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, it was very common. Yeah. So I'm assuming, I was hoping that would have subsided now, but it's still going on, which is kind of strange.
Yes, and I think there's a lot that can be done on that front as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So now, as far as Brother Suresh, I have a quick question for you. Since you are in triage and you've done camps in this country, how was it different for you there than what we do here? What kind of challenges did you face in that area since you were as a nurse? I'm assuming you had the chance to work in triage or wherever you worked. Even Aditya might have had some issues, some volunteer type of general volunteers. How did you guys manage people and all that kind of stuff? Give us a kind of a rough idea on that.
Yeah, so people management was mostly me, right?
Yeah.
In the general, as a general volunteer, that's all we really did, right? We were
Uh-huh.
managing the flow of people, how they were coming in, how they were going, whether they had food at the end of it, that type of stuff. Because these people were all almost all of them wanted to get their blood sugar taken, right?
Yes,
And so
yes.
they'd all fasted until they got their like blood sugar taken, which meant that some of them were fasting since 4 a.m.
Mhm.
Or and waiting since 4 a.m. right
Oh, wow.
in line at the camp.
Mhm.
And so we had to prioritize who came in first, who came in. And our priorities, I think the first day I was there was Jinja, right?
Okay.
Um, and so I was dropped right into the
Mhm.
1,300 patients that we saw that day. Um,
It's a lot.
and so I was helping pretty much just in registration that day.
Yeah.
And it started off with people management where it was like you had to control the flow of traffic, but there were already 800 people waiting there by the time we had arrived.
Oh,
Um, so it was really difficult to control the flow of traffic when everyone is everywhere.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So we had to set up lines, we had to set up order of like who came first. And from the registration point of view, we were like first come first serve, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But the people there were like I think our ideas of priority were so different, right?
Mhm.
We thought first come first serve. They thought these people are older, so they get care first. These people are in pain, so they get care first. These people are disabled, so they get care first. And so they were pushing these people to the front of the line. And when some of us were like, that person wasn't here first, they were like, no, they were here first. And so it was so sweet to see. And every time I saw that, I was like, okay, we're here with the wrong mindset of first come, first serve. It's
Exactly,
who
exactly.
needs care first,
Yeah.
right? As a registration team member.
Mhm.
Um, and throughout the entire day, it would just rain on and off and on and off. And it was
Mhm.
really heavy rains, right?
Yeah.
Um, and all of our registration forms were paper, right?
Oh, okay. Mhm.
So we were having to deal with these pieces of paper, keeping these papers dry while it was raining on and off, making sure that everyone got registered, um, and then that we were logging the registrations. But what happened that day was our computers crashed. Our whole server crashed. So we were doing everything by hand. So every single person that came in, we had to write down their name, their age, their gender, all of that. And
Mhm.
so instead of like managing the lines that day, I sat down and I wrote, I think like 700 or 800 different names, their ages, their date of birth, that type of stuff. Majority of them didn't know their date of birth, but they knew their
Yeah.
age, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So I was just sitting down there writing for hours on end while the rain went on and off and on and off. It was definitely like that was my first day. So that's what I was expecting from everything else. Right. I was like, the first day I was like, I don't think I can handle this anymore. Because it was just I was so shocked by the amount of just need there, right?
Yeah,
They
yeah.
had so much that they needed. And I came in there with this like la-di-da mindset, right? And all of a sudden I went into like panic mode pretty much because I was like, who needs help? What do I do? There's people yelling at me and I don't know what to do. And the people who were yelling weren't even like the people there, right? The people there were so soft, right? Soft spoken and they knew exactly what they wanted to say. And if they ever even raised their voice, right, it
Mhm.
was to care for the people around them.
Mhm.
And that's something that really, really inspired me there. Just the amount of care they have for each other as a community.
So, when we talk about love also, well, don't you see that happening right in front of your eyes? They're pushing the younger ones or the ones who are really sick up front. I don't care if I'm waiting in line for 2 hours, but this person must go first. So that really shows us that the unity amongst the people, right? That shows the unity amongst the people. So, Brother Suresh, you want to share anything on the triage area?
After Aditya registration, the patients come to the triage area. Basically,
Yes.
our role is to receive the patient and do the vital signs first, and
Mhm.
some of the people we check the blood sugar. Mostly, all the people like to do the blood sugar also.
Yeah.
So we do the blood sugar, and after that, a couple of questions. Because we have to segregate which patient, which doctor has to see. Because we have multi-specialty hospital in one row within the similar mobile hospital where Parthi, where Swami's hospital, we do the similar setup was made here. So after collecting the histories and other thing, we have to send whether this patient has to go to the ortho or this patient has to go to eye doctor or dental doctor. Some of the patient they may go all three areas also because the complaints are there in all three areas also. And we have over seven group of nurses, some of them from Africa, some of them from New Zealand, some of them Australia, from US. So we have very little time how to work together, and some of the machines based on the British system, some of the machine give the result in the American system. So it is a little bit time we collaborate each other, and we are open-minded to learn from each other and help each other and follow that. That is another thing, and this the team people who are working with us completely dedicated to Swami's work, and that was amazing. Some of the people who I work with them, by push them, you have to go out and you have to take some coffee, some break, and come back like that. So that much the love towards the work and the service mind we can see visually through them. We can visually Swami through them, like that is the amazing part. And in the hospital and all, team building, everything they will teach, but there with the Swami's name, everybody
It sort
work
of like a
together
team building, right?
work together very well, and be ready to open, ready to learn each other, and ready to help each other. That is the way it went, really. That is the amazing experience what we
Actually,
had.
one of my nieces was participating in the camp. She was from New Zealand, So she was there and she was telling us some stories, and her and the brother had already then come there. So they were sharing these experiences. So it's amazing to see that no matter, you don't need team building, right? You just go and do it.
Well, and on top of that, I think it was Swami who was unifying all of us.
Yeah.
So you already knew that there's this certain code of conduct, that there is the same heart that is present in all of us wanting to do this work, which I think is probably one of the biggest challenges that we might face when we're not, let's say, doing Swami's work, or we're doing it outside, maybe in our hospitals or other areas where people come from different backgrounds. But I think it's also a learning point for that too, right? That if we go in with that same heart and that same code of conduct, then that can also help. But it was absolutely true. I mean, I remember we're all texting on the WhatsApp group chat and finding out, who's landing in through which airport and at what time, because the level of coordination to me
Uh-huh.
was completely mind-boggling, to ensure that all of the volunteers who were arriving were getting picked up from the airport in Entebbe, and then basically the bus transportation, hotel arrangements, meals, the internal airfare. I mean, the air transportation from Kisumu to Nairobi.
Right.
Just the magnitude, I think, is mind-boggling. And so many of these people we were meeting on the day of or just the day before, and we walk into the room. You're like, so what's your specialty? What's your specialty? And then we would just set up and then start doing work. And then we had
Yes.
our only mini consulting teams, right? I'd ask my
Yeah.
colleague, maybe who does more
Yeah.
of women's healthcare, her opinion on something, or one of our colleagues was a neurologist. And so, we would start to then figure out who was the person that we wanted to ask those questions to, that we might
Right.
not have had the answers ourselves.
Right. And I went to Julie with a couple of patients, and I'm like, okay, is this infectious, or, what is going on here? What are the possibilities? So one of the things that I think that we all learned was from our senior doctors. So we had a lot of senior doctors who had actually served with Swami.
Mm-hmm.
And what they had said was, because one tends to get overwhelmed if you know that there's already 800 patients waiting
Right.
in Jinja, and Aditya had gone with the registration team, so they had gone about an hour, couple of hours before us.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time we came, they had already set up most of the rooms were set up and the places were set up. But the volume, the sheer volume, it sometimes tends to sort of overwhelm you. And all of the doctors, what they had said was, uh, just treat the patient in front of you. Give your best to every patient that comes.
Yeah.
And don't look at other stuff, because so if one person had a complicated patient, so we have a team of 4 pediatricians. There's Dr. Rama Devi, who was leading our pediatric team. There was me, there was Dr. Varsha and Dr. Yamuna. And all of us were from the US, so kind of we had a similar training. But if one of us had a patient that was very serious that we kind of needed to take to other specialties or try and figure out what's going on with this one, the other 3 would take the volume, for simple things like, okay, malaria, runny nose, cough, ear infection. So it was such a beautiful sort of, coming together and helping each other out. So on the first day, like you were saying with Ginger, we were still seeing patients when they had started to wrap up the camp at 8:30. And there was still, I think there were 2 departments. I think Brother Suresh was also working and we were working still, with the patients, because if you've registered, we would want to make sure that you got seen. And like Sister Julie said, the unity of purpose, I think, equalized us all. So we've all went with this mindset of serving. And that's what made it so beautiful, because it was just, all of us were with the same mindset. Everybody was looking out for each other. And on that front, we really have to say that, when we went to Uganda, to Kenya, to Tanzania, the local families there, the Sai families there, took such good care of us. It was just, I have no words to say how beautifully we were taken care of, how much they served us, down to even homemade yogurt and, hot tea and, fresh fruit and everything. And they made sure that we made breaks and everything. So that was really, fantastic. And then the local doctors and local pharmacists who helped us out with the camp as well.
Each one inspire other person. Really, basically, when we directly after the airport, we didn't get rest. Directly, we went to the camp. So when we are physically, mentally tired, and I coming and seeing Aditya, he was surrounded by more than 700, 800 people around him. And that when this young kid can do, I can do also. Just that is the way we push each other. Couple of days it takes. The body has to get adjusted to the thing, but eventually we overcome, and each one having the wonderful story behind them. I tried to be with each one and try to know about why they came, what is the purpose brought them here, and I want to know. But I couldn't do everybody. But each one having amazing story of Swami's love and the serving nature, and that lifelong cherished memories. And lifelong family people, we get it all around the world.
I think there were 64 people on the camp, and I think that all of us were very good friends by the end of it.
So how many people did you say? 54 or something?
64.
64. So that was the total volume, total number of people who were
Total
working.
number of people that traveled in.
Yeah.
And Sister Urvi was the one that was looking at the logistics for everything. And so you can imagine all over the world, people are coming from England, New Zealand, Australia, USA, Canada, cities in Africa. And so the visas for each one, for each of the 3 countries, for each of the people from each of the places. And the instructions that we got was so precise. It's like if you're from this country, you will put this answer in this one, this answer in this one, this answer. That kind of, that one can only do if you're really serving Swami from with all your, heart and soul.
Yeah.
Then you will pay so much attention to detail that none of us had problem with doing what we, when we applied for visas. It's a difficult process, but that I think was just, from that point itself, we were inspired even before we went.
So I'm surprised did we really need to get visas? I thought they had some reciprocal arrangements where we could go in without a lot of a hassle as far as the medical staff is concerned.
No, visas and medical licenses.
Medical licenses.
So we had to have visas and because this was a practicing medical camp, right? So we're dispensing. So we had to have licenses for everything, including the medications we carried, what we did. So we kind of, at the border between Kenya and Tanzania, we got stuck. They had to take inventory of each and every medicine that was carried across the border. So they had to sit down, write down the lot numbers and everything. So, all that happened with complete love and patience.
And the second day, third day, I think, we have camp was set up and everything in the open space. We are very happy. It's a big place.
Yeah.
Suddenly, rain started coming and the water level going up, and all the mission we are keep moving one place to another place, and we some of the people taking umbrella and bringing the patients, and some of them put the legs up, and we started seeing the patient. And even whatever the natural disaster come, the spirit, the loving and serving spirit, it never went down really. That was amazed me really. Like I started what type of people we are working with that, and that motivates more and more. And that is the way I felt it really like.
So were you basically set up in outside all the time, or were there any buildings as well? Like, I'm sure in
Some
Jinja there must be a hospital or something like that, or Nairobi there must be hospitals, right? Which you worked in. But was it indoors and outdoors all the time, or was it a combination of both?
It's a combination of both.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, some of the places inside the school, so it was well protected. Some of the
Mm-hmm.
places we are outside, and even whatever happened, people ready to serve, ready to work, and that was amazing. Really, nature cannot stop anything. The spirit of our people, really, that is the way I felt it. Really, like.
It
So,
was
Dr. Disha and Julie, we go through challenges here with HIPAA regulations and all that. We have to have a room and curtains and all this. Did you face any of that over there, or was it basically pretty much open?
Yeah, it was really interesting because, we had varying sizes of the rooms depending on the location that we were in. And then, sometimes there'd be a table, and I might sit at the table with my patient and then try to have an interpreter or translator. And then at the other end of the table, there's another physician with their patient.
Yeah.
So I think everyone is respectful, and a lot of the local individuals were also serving as translators for each other. So,
Hmm.
I think that when you do that, obviously you're hearing their own medical information and everything. So, from what people were very comfortable with that.
Hmm.
But yes, we were able to actually section off certain areas. So if somebody needed to have a more in-depth physical exam, either whether it was gynecology had their own area, but even for us, if somebody needed to have an ultrasound, or if we needed to look at maybe a skin lesion on the upper thigh or on a body part that you don't want to undress right in front of everyone, we did have areas that were curtained off. Um, but that was something that we were able to do. But when you mentioned HIPAA, I think one of the things that we really loved was that we didn't need to have approval from insurance. We didn't need to process payments. We didn't need to have prior authorization for medications, that all of these things. And it reminded us, at least it reminded me, of why I went into medicine.
Hmm.
And what I think I thought medicine was going to be like when I was doing my training, right? And then you get into the
Yeah.
real world and you see all the other parts of it that you don't learn about early on. But it
Right.
really brought me back to that original core of this is the vision I had in my mind of why I had wanted to become a doctor when I was young.
Right. And I think that what you say is so true because it brought back really that feeling of why we had gone into medicine. We had gone to serve, we had gone to help. And being able to, so the way that the pediatric department was set up, all four of us are always in one room. And initially, we would send the patients to, they would come with the vitals, and then they would come with the, we'd send them to the pharmacy department for medication. But we realized that that was not a very efficient way. So we sort of modified by the second, third day. What we started to do was do our own vitals. So we would ask the registration team to send the children in to us directly.
Okay.
We would do our own vitals. If they needed a test, we would send them to Sister Payal to get the testing done. But we had our own pharmacy, so the pharmacists were amazing at giving us all the medicines that we needed. We had them set up on a table, and we would just dispense them from there. So it was a lot of, as we went along, we found what was the most efficient way of doing this. So I think, next time when we go, we exactly know how to make it super efficient. And the joy in being able to treat and give the medication to the patient right there, and saying, okay, yes, this is what you need. It was just incredible. And the blessings, I think that the people are so soft spoken and so gentle and so
Hmm.
loving and so rooted in God, you know.
Yeah.
that they saw everything as a blessing of
Mm-hmm.
God. And I think that that reminded us of our own faith as well, how much, and this is, I'm wearing a bracelet that a patient gave me,
Uh-huh.
that she was just, she was so happy when I treated her child that, at the end, she just, was, here's my bracelet, please put it. And she put it on my hand. And I wore it for all of the camp while I was there as well, just reminder of um, how much love we received.
So when we talk about pediatrics, nutrition is one thing which really is something which we all concerned in those regions, right? So what did you find there which was alarming to you as far as nutrition is concerned amongst the youngest, our young generation, the children? What can be done to help those folks from our organization or any other organization to make sure that they get the right nutrition?
I think that the biggest need that we saw was in the first, in the Sai school, Uganda. That
Mm-hmm.
probably was the area that had the biggest need.
Yeah.
Not so much in Kenya. And I think that a lot of education and a lot of resources that we could probably apply there. And I think they're working on that. And so definitely, and then we, where we had dispensed some multivitamins and things like that, but definitely there is a lot that can be done on
Mm-hmm.
that side.
Mm-hmm.
I think their
Yeah.
diet is also very starch heavy
Mm-hmm.
compared to the amount of protein, right? And so a lot of times, one, we had to familiarize ourselves with some of the local food, what they eat and what the names of that food is. So we have an understanding, and what is made, like the ugali, and what is made
Mm-hmm.
from the different root vegetables. Um, because sometimes we'd have patients coming and presenting with digestive complaints. A lot of patients would say that they had ulcers, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes that meant they had a formal diagnosis of having an ulcer in their stomach. Other times it meant that they had indigestion and heartburn, or sometimes difficulty tolerating certain types of foods. But I think the protein and how you get adequate amounts of protein. I don't know, Disha, like what did you see in the children with some of that type of malnutrition?
So there is
There was
some.
not as much as we had thought, that we would
Okay.
see,
Okay.
which
Uh-huh.
was a good thing. I
Because when
think
we
that,
look at
there was.
Haiti and places like that, we see a tremendous issues there,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So.
I think we did have a lot, and then so basically, I think that that would be something that we would be able to do if we consistently went back to that place. And
Mhm.
that's a kind of what, something that we'd like to do.
So from an organization perspective, Disha and Julie, do you think we'll be having more camps in that area? I know we've had a couple, I believe, right, up to now.
We hope so.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
We hope so, yes.
I
Of course,
think it was
from what I hear from the organization perspective, it's quite a challenge to get everything right. And with Swami's grace, I think everything happened so smoothly. But
It was. And this is not for, yeah, that was mostly because there was so much that went behind it in the organization.
behind the scenes.
Yes, behind the scenes.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So talk to us a little bit about the environment. All these different cities which you visited, what struck out to you guys most? Because we see is concrete buildings in the United States, right? So we have a lot of those. What did you see? The nature was there. So talk to us about that from your personal. I mean, now putting medical aside, talk to us about how the environment and how the trip was a little bit.
Yeah, it changed from one location. Every single location we went to was so different than, let's say, the previous one. And I think in that sense, the variety was refreshing. I would say Jinja was by far the most rural of locations. It
Uh-huh.
was about 2.5 hours drive from Kampala. And even then, a portion of that drive is on the bumpy road, the dirt road with the potholes. And you're really going into the community. And so that was probably the most rural. But I think, I mean, we all have, I don't know, I took so many pictures on my phone as we're driving from one location to the next of the lush vegetation or the mountains. And when we were driving into Tanzania, there was a whole section of camels that we saw, and then there was cows, goats, donkeys. And so it was like a little bit of a nature show without even having to go on a safari. We didn't see elephants there, but I didn't go on a safari afterwards. But I think the vegetation, the lush landscape, especially with the rains and everything that came, it was just beautiful. Some places had more mosquitoes than other places. Nairobi was the coolest temperature
Mm-hmm.
compared to the other places, so that made it even more comfortable to be able to practice and see patients, because other places with the humidity, it was hot. So I remember every day I would take a picture at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day. And like you can see your face like gets smaller because you're sweating out whatever fluids you were drinking in and everything like that. So, the temperature was certainly there and a little bit of that humidity, but I'd love to hear from the others too.
Please.
But similar like Indian climate, like so easily we got adjusted. A lot of greeneries everywhere. It's good and everywhere. A lot of trees and the accommodation they arranged for us is very comforting nature. So that way we can get enough rest to handle another 500 or 600 people in the morning. So
Yes.
so
Yeah. And
so
I think that,
food.
one of the most incredible experiences that we had was actually the travel time. So when we would go
Okay.
in the bus, the
Mm-hmm.
scenery was beautiful. You would point your camera anywhere and you click, it's just gorgeous. You'd see the Maasai people in their traditional outfits, on the side and on motorcycles and all kind. So it was really fun, to see that. And all through, I think Aditya needs to talk about, what fun they did on the bus. They always had snack and everything for us, but I'll let you take that.
Yeah, so anytime we had a bus of YAs, which I was not
Mm-hmm.
expecting, I really went in there expecting, oh my goodness, I'm gonna be the only YA there. There's gonna be a bunch of old people. Um, but really it wasn't that, right? There were people of all ages. I like the first bus I got on, I had YAs behind me, um, retired people to my right, and like people my mom's age in front of me. I was like, this is everything, right?
Yeah,
There were
yeah.
people from the ages of like 18 to I don't know what the top age was, but it was great. And so anytime we had more than two YAs on a bus, it would just be bhajans all the way, right? No matter how long that bus ride was, we were
Mhm.
doing bhajans,
Yeah.
right? Whether it was like a half hour of like the Rudram in the morning. There was like a 5 a.m. bus ride we did where they were just singing the Rudram all the way to the airport. I was sitting there going, I need to memorize this now. But it was great. So I think the longest bus ride we did was 4 hours or something along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
And we did bhajans the entire time. Like the entire bus ride, it was just bhajans. So it was, I think I had the most fun. I think more than anyone else, I had more fun, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I got to experience every single department. I got to just like be me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the just no matter where we went, we were given snacks, we were given water, right? On the bus rides, it was like you would look out the window, it'd be like eating snacks on this bus ride. People were buying bananas off the street, passing it in the like bus. Um, every single person I met on that trip, I think the people were more impressive than the environment on
Mm-hmm.
any day, right?
Yeah.
Um, the people made it just amazing, right? It's the company that makes the trip better, right? And this trip was, I don't think it's the best trip I've ever taken in my life, just because it was completely service based. Everyone had that service to man is service to God mindset, right?
Right.
Every patient that our doctors, nurses were treating was God to them, right? They were focused
Mm-hmm.
on that one patient, right? It's the really, really, really deep people we went with and the people that we saw that inspired me more than anything else on this trip.
Mhm. So let's go into. Thank you so much for sharing that. I have one more question towards the end before I finish with you. So the other question I want to bring up is a couple of questions here. Is one of them is Disha and Julie, when we do camps here, we have that divine Swami moments. You know, the divine Swami moments, right? So I wanted to kind of touch on that a little bit. Just for an example, when we do open up a camp here, there are times, especially when we were doing it in the early 2000s, every camp we opened, we would do the prayers, and immediately a whiff of Swami's beautiful vibhuti would come. even though we didn't have any vibhuti there. But a whiff of vibhuti would come. So Swami would show us that I'm here. Did you guys experience anything like that?
I
Swami
think
is
it was in
It may be
the
in a
big.
different form. It may be in a different
Yeah, no,
but
I
it may
think
be
it
in a
was.
different form. Mhm.
I think it was just in the beauty, the unity. I cannot
Uh-huh.
explain, and that's what I think even Aditya is struggling to explain
Mm-hmm.
the feeling that we came back with,
Yeah.
and that was because there was so much love and unity, and there was this feeling of equality. So the most senior doctors and Aditya, he was like, I'm brother here, like, so,
Mm-hmm.
that's an uncle to him, but he's got, so that equalization, because we're all in Swami's fold. I think that, and the fact that there was just so much, I think it's a difficult feeling to explain when you just literally see Swami everywhere.
Okay.
And I'll explain one experience to me, which just showed that Swami is literally everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there was a time when in one of the camps in Nairobi, one of the political people had come to visit.
Mm-hmm.
And during that time, because of security and so on, they stopped the flow of patients. And
Oh.
for a moment, we were, I was kind of like, this is not right, that
Mm-hmm.
they're doing this and we're not seeing patients. But at that moment, in front of me, there was this patient with respiratory distress, so basically was struggling to breathe.
Mm-hmm.
This was a mom that had no resources, that had this child that was really, really sick, that had come. And so the way that everything lined up is kind of what I'm saying. Right at that moment when we did not have any other patients, I had this 1 hour time that I could spend solely on this patient, take care of this patient till the point that the child was happy and smiling at the end of it. And then receive so much gratitude for that. And I think that that was literally a Swami moment. Like, how does everything line up so that right at that moment, I have the patient, I have the resources, I have the people that'll be able to help me. 2 or 3 times we needed a cardiologist. Dr. Yamuna was our cardiologist. We had the probe. We had everything that we were able to figure it out for the patient. So for
Mm-hmm.
me, those were the biggest Swami moments. It was just, and then the incredible beauty, the beauty of the place, the beauty of the people. And we talk about soft and loving speech. I think we saw that with all of the people. If you think about 1,200, 1,300 people in one place, you will think that it's going to be a very noisy place. And
Yeah.
yet the whole place was very soft, or everybody was speaking softly, nobody is yelling or screaming. All the children had so much self control. We'd gone with lollipops and stickers and everything. No child would ever touch anything that did not belong to them. So all through that, we had our purses put somewhere. We were not bothered, because we knew that nobody would touch or take anything. You think of Africa and where everybody has a very different view. But our experience of Africa was just, I
Mm-hmm.
cannot even explain to you what
Mm-hmm.
how we felt when we were there.
Mm. So in
people
terms
who
of
serve,
when we go, sorry, go ahead. Sorry, somebody was saying, Suresh.
the people who served us so much hospitality and the food we can feel the love. And
Mm-hmm.
Swami is not is with everybody, like that is the way we felt it really.
Yeah.
So each one they are showing the love, and I think 4 or 7, 8 families running a big Swami school, and my mind started thinking that how we can support this school. Like
Yeah.
where they need lot of books, lot of the school doesn't have not much supplies, but the spirit and the loving nature is a divine people. Everyone really like so. So it's it's a lot of things. They didn't worry about anything. They just want to run and just want to help the people. That is the attitude that they have. Each one is a inspiration role, I can say. Like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. And we also, the background that you see, this is from the Sai Center in Nairobi.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. I love it.
That itself was also just an incredible, such a divine experience.
Yeah.
They serve about 16 to 1800 children under 10 food
Mm-hmm.
every
Mm-hmm.
weekend.
Yeah.
And the volume of service that they do, and that hall was just so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely, I think Julie, I think you.
Yeah, I think you just muted yourself there. But I think, yeah, there's so many videos that many of the people who had attended shared, and there's videos of the kids singing bhajans, and I don't even know if the kids are even aware of the full magnitude of what they're singing, because these are, Swami's bhajans, love is my form,
Yeah.
that, that they were singing that they knew, and so it was so nice to see that and hear that. And then, Swami's messages. So, Swami's messages would be all around the classrooms where we were at, because in Jinja and in Nairobi, we were in the Sai schools. And so seeing evidence of that was so, so wonderful. But when you asked about how we noticed Swami's presence, I mean, I think another way was somehow we had enough energy to be able to go through each and every day. Sometimes we got, 5, 6 hours of rest. Very seldom did we get more than 7 hours of sleep or anything at night. And being able to wake up the next day, everyone all together, bright eyed, bushy tailed, ready for the day, and not knowing how many patients may come that day.
Yeah.
Some days it might be 500, other days it
Mhm.
was closer to 1,000 or more.
Okay.
And we made it through the whole day. So I
Mhm.
think that that's another way that, Swami just filled each and every one of us with the energy that was needed to be able to make it through each day to do his work.
Some
Wonderful.
of us struggling with the day and night sleep, and before going to the bed, we pray, Swami, give proper sleep, proper things, so that way I can handle it another 500 tomorrow. So that is the attitude. We prepare our mind and body, everything before the night,
It's beautiful. He
and
takes care of everything, right? Yeah. So one other things which we go through here, and I just want to bring that up too. The aha moments of get patience, right? So one of the things we find here, and Aditya, you can probably vouch for that, or whoever, Julie, Disha, even Brother Suresh. Now, when we finish the camp, we'll have a little debriefing with the organizers, and sometimes they will share some stories to us that, hey, this patient experienced this, right? And they experience Swami in this form or anything like that. Did you guys hear anything from the organizations on the aha moments of the camp, how Swami touched the person we served?
I don't know how many people are going to be a leader. We saw such a beautiful leader like Dr. Lal and Urvi, and we never felt his power or something like that. We see that is a loving leadership, and each one is amazing, really.
Mhm. So did the guests share anything with the organizers on how they felt? Anything like that? Did you hear any feedbacks in that aspect?
Dr. Disha
Yes.
has the video, everything. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, we have a lot of videos about patients actually just so happy that
Yeah.
they can see. I
Hmm.
think a lot of the because we had given prescriptions and
Yes,
glasses
yes, yes.
to thousands of patients, and they were just so happy. There was one person that said, "Oh, now I can read
Uh-huh.
the contract, everything. I can read my Bible." Right,
Ah,
Aditya? I think you were
right,
helping with
right.
that. Just that joy. There were so many people that came and blessed, and they told us, please come back again, and just so much gratitude. I think that was definitely there, and I think Julie, do you have something to share there?
Yeah, I'm just thinking about some of my patient interactions that I had, especially at our last camp that we had. So the last camp that we had was at this hospital that was still being built. So yes, the rooms had walls and roofs and windows, but there was no running water and there was no Western toilets or anything. It was just a couple of, just traditional toilets if you wanted to use that. So that
Yeah.
was probably one of the more challenging areas. But I mean, the patients that we interacted with that day, I just remember so, so, so thankful and appreciative, that they want to, like, I had this older lady, she might have been in her 70s or 80s. She had diabetes and hypertension that had been diagnosed 5, 10 years ago, but her family had said not to take any prescription medication and try to use more herbal and holistic types
Mm-hmm.
of
Mm-hmm.
medicines, saying that that would maybe help treat it. And it didn't, right? So her diabetes and her blood pressure was still there. And so we started her on a bunch of these right medicines. And she was just so overwhelmed and overcome with emotion by that. You can just see it in her eyes. And it just reminded me that every single patient that we took care of was my grandmother, my sister, my child, my brother, and so and I feel it inside. So you just see that connection and you feel that connection with each and every person,
Mm-hmm.
that these are not just people. We often get depersonalized in medicine and in life,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we don't think about the humanity of each and every person that walks. And when you look beyond the outside and you see the humanity in each and every person, it can be overwhelming to feel that love for them, right? Because you can feel also that they're suffering and their pain, and you want to make that better, and you want to be able to do whatever you can for them. So these are just the deeper connections that we felt, I think, with each and every patient that came across our path. I think, as Brother Sudesh was saying, they have their story, why they came here, what are their
Mm-hmm.
struggles that they're going through in life, maybe a family member or an illness or a job related thing. And so there were so many people who also walked away with, maybe new opportunities coming their way of being able to get a job. I heard a story about a man, I think this is when we were in the Itando Medical Mission, who was walking 50 kilometers to go to work, and
Yeah.
that they were able to try to secure a position for him so he didn't have to travel so far just to go to work. So there's even non-medical things that many of our patients were being helped with as well.
Right.
And I
That's
think,
actually.
on that note, on the day that our medicines got held up on the border,
Yeah. Yeah.
we had a family that came to me that
Mm-hmm.
actually spoke Urdu. So it was easier to converse. They had
Mm-hmm.
immigrated to Tanzania recently.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, initially they just come for this child that had a headache. And then, so the family of, few children and then the parents. And fortunately on that day again we had so much enough time that I was actually able to sit and talk to them and basically find out what the family history was and what the parents struggle was. And so it was just so gratifying to be able to help them, not just as, okay, here's your medicine, but
Mm-hmm.
also what are the things they can do, for their lifestyle, how can they help their children
Mm-hmm.
overcome the stress of the situation that they're in, and give very concrete things. Okay, do this every day with the children, and a lot of counseling for the parents. And that was, so again, that the fact that this time I was able to get this time with the family, and this family that spoke Urdu came to me because we could converse, in that
Right.
particular
Right.
language. It's also,
Mm-hmm.
it was literally what I say would be a grace of God. So it was just these little things which were not so little but very, very fulfilling for all of us. I think those moments that we could actually spend. So one would say, why did we have to go all that distance to help someone there? Can the doctors there help? Yes, but I think that this was the divine plan for all of us to be there
Yes.
and help in that moment with what we could. And the help was, not, it was two ways, because we came back very inspired. We saw the true meaning of service, and service
Mm-hmm.
with love, in the way that Swami would want. And some of the stories that the other doctors had shared with us, of how they served when they were with Swami and so on. Those interactions were just the most beautiful, because at the end of the day, when we're all so tired, we're all sitting there having lunch or dinner with with dinner with the rest. We would sit with different people every day, and it was just
Mm-hmm.
the most incredible experience there, I think.
I
Well, that
wanted to
is
add
just.
something to that, Manny Uncle.
Mhm.
Kind of ties into how we started the call, of even maybe how each and every one of us came to even be able to volunteer and then go on this
Mhm.
mission. And so, just personally for me, I had seen the announcement in the Psi Center. It must have been in October when they first put it for East
Right.
Africa
Right.
Medical Camp, and I saw the
Mhm.
dates, and I wanted to go because I was like, when you see that, and like the first thing inside me was like, go. And
Yeah.
then I asked my younger daughter, Milana, I said, should I go? And she said, but mom, you're going to miss my birthday, because her birthday was April 9th and I would come back April 11th, actually, the last day I'd be flying out April 10th.
Yeah.
And so I just let it rest. I said, that's okay. I'm just going to put it down to the side. And then I talked to my cousin in late December. He's a cardiologist in California. And he had mentioned to me, we don't talk very often, but we happened to talk, and he said that he had wanted to go on the trip, and um, that's when it came back to my mind again, and that voice again came inside, go, and so I was one of maybe latecomer to the game of signing up, and then in January and getting all of my paperwork sent in and getting those visas and everything started, booking tickets. But it was so many people who came on this trip as volunteers had some type of personal connection and tie to the area. Kind of
Yeah.
like you were saying that you'd been born and raised there and grew up there. My mom and her siblings were born in Uganda, and so
Uh-huh.
many of the towns that we traveled through were towns that they had grown up in. And so many of the other volunteers, either their grandparents were there, their parents, maybe they had been born in Kenya. And I think it was such an honorable experience, like such a wonderful experience to be able to come back to your homeland in
Mm-hmm.
that sense, and to be able to walk the same earth that your ancestors did, and also, be where Swami had come to. And my
Yeah.
mom has told me stories about, why Swami had come to Africa at that time, and having to do with stuff from, I think, during Ramchandra Bhagwan's time, and, things like that, right? And so on many of these, like, thousands of years later, fulfilling these promises and vows that had been made, and just to be able to walk in those same steps and experience that same thing just felt like a full circle moment, as they say.
Wonderful, wonderful. I think this was probably the best conversation I've had with all of you, and it was so much fun, and it makes me feel. This is what makes me feel. It makes me feel I was there. Literally makes me feel like I was there. Thank you, Aditya, for your energetic discussions on registration. Brother Suresh, thank you so much for sharing all the experiences you've had. Sister Julie, it was just wonderful. And Sister Disha, you wrapped it up so beautifully. It was all the synergies and the energies which Swami provided over there to make this a successful camp. Again, I said, put my name down for the next one. So whenever we go there, I'm going to be ready to go. Because I've got to get your permission
Absolutely.
to go there, right, Disha? So,
No, you don't know. His Swami is the only one that determines who goes
I
where.
know, I know.
I'd signed up for the previous one, but I wasn't able to make it for that one. So I really prayed to Swami. I'm like, Swami, this one, next camp, I'm definitely going to go. He
Right,
just made it
right.
happen.
I think I wanted to go to the Haiti one, but I couldn't make it there, and I couldn't make it to this one either. But next time around, I'll make a point. And Sister
When he
Julie,
wills
thank you
it.
for sharing our wonderful, backgrounds of where we come from. Like, although we were only little when we were there, but it brings memories back, and like you guys talk about, it brings the memories back of the vegetation, the people. Again, the people are so loving, to tell you the truth. We had people living in our house because they were taking care of us since we were little. We had folks living in a house who was taking care of us, our nannies, right? So, and the day when we left, they cried the most compared to we did, right? So that's the sad part. But it was so beautiful to hear from all of you, and I really am blessed today from Swami to hear all these stories. And thank you so much, Sairam, Jay Sairam. I'll hand it over to Sister Vijayashree.
Sairam,
Sai
thank you.
Ram,
Sairam.
Sai Ram, as Brother Manny said, this is one of the most beautiful sessions that we are spending together, thinking about Swami, you know, reliving childhood memories, generational memories, and so on. So that reminded me in March of 1965, much before most of the people in this conversation were born, Swami has said in one of the discourses, love more and more people, love them more and more intensely, transform that love into service, transform the service into worship. That's the highest spiritual practice. You all have been shining examples of doing just that in these 9 or 10 days that you were able to go and help and touch all those lives. All this conversation also reminded me personally for myself. By the way, I am putting in that prayer to Swami to Manibai. I also want to be there next whenever
Yeah.
it happens, Swami. I hope you're listening. I hope you make us instruments of your love to go and be of service to people wherever the need is. But I was remembering when Chinmay, our daughter, was in college doing international health for her major. She spent a whole semester in Tanzania. And so we went up to visit her. And like Sister Disha said earlier, you have this mindset that's been fed to you through Western media or whatever it is, that this is a dark continent. There's there's poverty, there's malnutrition, there is there's no education, there's no infrastructure, all that. Yes, maybe to an extent that's true, but there's vibrancy. There's all these people who are so polite, so happy with minimum things, right? My children, I very vividly remember, they said, Mom, they're always happy. They're always smiling. They're always thanking us for coming there. And they tell us from when we move from place to place, they're telling us, go back and tell your friends to come. You come back again, and so on. So, this sense of contentment that Swami has sowed in all of them, I think, because, Swami went there. That's the only continent that he went and visited other than being in India. So, there was a purpose for that divine mission. Swami went there and prepared that soil, prepared those people, their souls for generations, to be radiating that love back to us when we go there for a visit, showing us and affirming to us that Swami is there in each and every one of us and each and every one of them. So thank you, thank you, thank you so much for doing this session with us. We really, really appreciate all of your time, not just volunteering there, but coming back and talking to us, which I know will inspire every one of the viewers now to think about how they can be part of the mission. So, given that, I do want to announce, I always think my favorite quarter in the calendar year is the fourth quarter, because we have all these big celebrations, starting with Diwali, which is the biggest celebration. We also have Swami's birthday, Ladies' Day. We celebrate everything on Thanksgiving, Christmas, everything happens. But third quarter is getting to be even more special these days. It's like the step up, like the preview for the fourth quarter, right? So this quarter coming up, we have so many events at the center level, at the regional level, national level, international level, and so on. So I'm going to take a couple of minutes to jog everybody's memory about those. Then in July, we have beautiful Guru Purnima celebrations at each of our centers. And then that's on 21st of July. But before that, what happens? July 15th is our early deadline for registration for our retreat that's coming up end of August, beginning of September, the Labor Day retreat. Those of you that have gone, you know what a beautiful experience it's been. Those of you that haven't gone, I encourage you to please talk to the ones that have gone. See the beautiful website that's been already put up with all the information that you need. Please go ahead and register. There are some financial incentives for registering early. It helps you, it helps the organizers, because just like the people that talked about this medical camp, they were able to go and serve and have a beautiful experience because there was an army of people that were working behind the scenes, making things ready, making things available so that everything can go smoothly. So you will not only help yourself with a little bit of a financial incentive, you will be helping the organizing team in a very big way if you can register ahead of time. So I'm going to request every one of you that are watching, if you are watching and you know some other people missed the session, they can watch it later in YouTube. I thank Brother Prasanna who makes all of this possible. He records the sessions when we do the live sessions and as we are talking live, and then he also uploads it to the YouTube channel so that people from any part of the world can watch it anytime later on. So when people haven't watched the session, please encourage others to watch if they didn't sign up to watch this live, and then let them also know about registering for the retreat as possible, definitely before the July 15th. Thank you all once again. Sai Ram. Let's close with Om Shanti. Aditya, would you like to do that? One Om and three Shanti, please.
Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Sairam, thank you very much.
Sairam. Thank you, Brother Mani.
Right.
Recording stopped.